Hello, my name is Michael Bennett. I've picked Immutable Systems as my project for emerging technologies, specifically NixOS, as I'm most familiar with that, as I use it every day. So NixOS and other immutable systems have actually been around for quite some time. NixOS in particular was started by Ilko Dolstra, started in 2003 as a research project. He wanted to achieve a system for correct software deployment. And by 2006, the project had developed from Nix, a package manager, into NixOS. In October of 2013, NixOS 13.10 was released to the public. It was named Aardvark. This began a pattern of stable releases to be published twice per year, usually around the May and November mark. Each release is dictated by the year it was released, followed by the month of the release, followed by a code name, which has always been an animal. For example, this year, of November 2024 was the latest release of 24.11 and is named Fukuda. But let's back up. So what is an immutable distro? An immutable distro from Linux is a system written in code that has the mindset of being super reproducible, super stable, and super reliable. This is also partnered with the rollback mindset, so that you can roll back to any previous version at any given time, which has the benefits of saving your system, security, and many other things. NixOS has a base OS code that is mostly written in read-only. This means there is no way to really destroy the system, as you can go back and roll back to previous versions. So let's say you update a software that breaks something in your entire system. Instead of having to wipe the system or try to figure that out, you can simply roll back to the previous version that you had before that was implemented. Fortunately, NixOS is an extremely lightweight system and can be put on an older machine with very low specs. Other non-NixOS distributions like this can be Fedora's Silverblue, Ubuntu's Ubuntu Core, OpenSUSE's MicroOS, and many more. So being reproducible, as it sounds, it means that you are able to deploy the exact same configuration of OS, system settings, applications, software, you name it, across a span of machines. This is great for deploying work machines across a company or business that need the same experience throughout consistently. Rollbacks are saved from the first time you launch the OS. There is a stock configuration. We'll look at that more in a minute. And then every time after that you rebuild the OS, it pulls from the same file or files, and so you always have a version to fall back to. Another great example of this feature would be if an employee opens up an email that has a virus in it, and instead of it rolling across the entire network and risking all those machines, you can go ahead and just roll back that machine and really roll back other machines in the process. Your files and documents do not get touched in the process, but the entire system can be. This is all done in NixOS by using a few different techniques. NixOS has a few files that configurations can be built up from. The most notable, probably easiest, and kind of the base configuration is a file located in etc/NixOS and is a file called configuration.nix. In this file, you can use the Nix special language to declare what packages, what systems, what hardware, what all kinds of things that you want to implement. You can build systems with specific software, hardware, applications, you name it, settings that are already implemented and disperse them over a number of machines. For example, my laptop running NixOS and my PC running NixOS and my server running NixOS, they can all have the similar configurations. This also makes it super easy to enable system settings, to enable hardware, to enable software, and to add and remove application packages. So let's say I want to install Firefox, Docker, and Tailscale. Let's do all this so that we can use Docker to spin up a Plex server. Let's go ahead and do Tailscale so we can access that server from wherever we are. And let's install Firefox and then we can tweet about it and brag to the world. All right, so first we're going to open up a CLI terminal emulator. My choice is Kitty, so let's go ahead and open that. All right. And what we're going to do, I use NeoVim to edit text. So what we're going to actually go ahead and do is run a simple command. You have to be sudo to do this. So let's go ahead and run the command sudo nvims to open up NeoVim. And let's do etc NixOS configuration. That's where it's going to live. So you'll see we'll enter my password, it's super secure. Now we're in the Nix configuration file. This is where everything happens. So you can see all the different things we have here. This is pretty much what comes out of the default packaging. So what we're going to do now in order to, let's do Docker first. All right, so we're going to come in here and we're going to enable Docker. All right, so what we're going to do here is run a simple command. We are just going to type one line in. It is going to be virtualization. I don't know why it's spelled that way. Dot docker dot enable, and it's going to be true. And with Nix, you always have to use the semicolon. All right, let's go ahead and do tailscale next. So we're going to do enable tailscale. So what we'll do here is we will run the simple command of services.tailscale, oops, I can spell, dot enable equals true, again a semicolon, and that's it. So those two lines are all we needed to add to get tailscale and Docker. And now we'll come down here and you'll see, I think I already have Firefox. I do not. Awesome. So we'll come down here now and we will go ahead. I try to keep things in alphabetical order. We will do packages, which is Nix packages, and packages.firefox. Okay. So now what we'll be able to do is we will be able to, let's go ahead and write and quit out of here. So that was it. With these 3 simple lines of code, we were able to get our system ready for our launch of Plex Media Server, prepare our machine to connect with our other Tailnet devices, and have a browser to open up x.com and tell the world that we've done this. Except nothing's really happening yet. If you will look in here, let's see, Firefox does not exist yet, and nothing has happened. That is because we have not initiated our NixOS command of rebuild switch. NixOS rebuild switch will do is create a duplicate of that file, but now it is having everything that we just edited, and the old file will be saved and archived. The new file will be initiated, and all the lines that we just added to that configuration.nix file will go ahead and process the code and initiate reboot. So to do this, what we'll do is we'll write one command, again needing root privileges, so we'll do sudo NixOS rebuild switch. If you're doing this and you want to upgrade the entire system at one time, all the packages involved, you just do -- upgrade. We're not going to do that now for time's sake. So we can easily just fire this away, and let's take a look and see what happens. That was it. Notice the system did not reboot. I did not have to restart the system, shut it down, or anything like that. It did its thing. Now we're able to use Tailscale, Docker, and we now have, let's see, the one we can see is Firefox. Granted, the icon doesn't usually update until after the reboot, but it does work. We can go ahead and open that up. I have Firefox here. It has all my extensions because I've had it before. So that was one way to use NixOS. Another way is to use a file such as homemanager.nix, which is more in depth of settings and setting up maybe all your bash files or zish file scripts and plugins. And each VS Code each application has its own plugin set system settings so that they are just ready to go no matter what machine you're on. You can easily copy and paste them. Another way of using Nix are flake files. So a flake.nix are files that are in little sandboxes that host any environment that you want. Say you would like to host something on Docker, but only a version, and I don't know what version we're on, but let's say 14.3 was the version that really worked well, that was stable, and you need to go back to that version. Let's say you have version 23 of Firefox that you want to stick to. And let's say we'll use the latest version of Tailscale, but the beta version. So in a flake, you can declare what version of software that you want ran, and it will create a sandbox where those versions never change, never upgrade, and you can have a super reliable, stable function, and they don't automatic upgrade to cause bugs and create problems. This is also another great way to share environments between engineers who are developing for a software. This is also great for companies running older legacy machines who need to stay on certain versions in order for hardware to be compatible with. Another great thing about Nix, than the Nix community, is that utilizing flakes, you can actually send it to another Nix user. If they have more experience, they can open up that file, and it's the exact file that you sandboxed, you packed in, and they can reproduce the exact same thing on their end. This allows a great deal of troubleshooting help. This allows them to help you troubleshoot and maybe find something that you're missing, as well as tinker with different things to see if they can get it to work. Once they get it to work, they can send it back to you. You can implement it, or they can implement it into that file, and then you can just upload and build that file into your system, and now it's just merged. So you can kind of see the very tip of the iceberg for NixOS and what immutable systems have to offer. You may also be thinking it sounds pretty daunting, and it kind of is. It's extremely extremely unlike any other Linux distro that is out there, and a lot of older sysadmins and other developers are really pushing back on this kind of NixOS language because it has such a learning curve that if you're coming from it with fresh eyes, may be easier to pick up than if you've been doing this for years and years and you have your understandable but set old ways. Me personally, I started NixOS early in my Linux journey. I went from Ubuntu to Fedora to NixOS. I've bounced around a few times back and forth, but keep landing back at NixOS because it's just easy, it's simple, and because I do like to tinker and change different distros, when I come back to it, it's pretty plug and play. That being said, there are some pretty cool things, such as having a laptop and PCs, or however many PCs and laptops and servers you have. You can replicate the same system on each one. Another cool thing is called NixDarwin, and this is more focused on macOS. So we have iOS and iPadOS and all these other Apple OS ecosystems that when you transfer from one device to another, it kind of just shuffles everything over, and you kind of don't have to start from scratch every single time. With macOS, you already kind of have that from using Time Machine. You can move everything over. However, individual settings may get lost and stuff like that. So with NixDarwin, you can actually create, it's basically a homemanager.nix file. So what that does is allows you to toggle individual settings such as dark mode, if your dock auto hides, the size of your dock, making it smaller or larger, and every little niche setting command can be put in this declarative file. And after you implement the first boot of your Mac OS and get everything set up, you can actually upload this file and configure it into the system, and everything switches. It's like magic. Going into this, I wasn't really sure how NixOS was going to be able to affect society, and that may be true for everyday people. But for nerds like myself, software developers, IT specialists, and sysadmins, this can be a godsend. I touched on this earlier, but the NixOS community is just full of super sweet, super kind nerds who want to help and see this thing develop, as well as see more users get on board and have access to these things. As more users use this, they are actually able to package up different applications that they would use maybe on other distributions and make them more readily available onto Nix packages, which already has a plethora of apps. Most apps that you use every day are already built into the Nix packages, and as easy as putting in packages.firefox or whatever that we did. All right, so I hope this has been helpful and educational. Most of this stuff I'm learning as well, so if I didn't get everything right, I do apologize, and you can feel free to correct me. Again, as far as emerging technologies, I think NixOS and other immutable systems are up and coming, and it seems there are more and more people jumping ship from traditional Linux and diving into NixOS and other immutable systems.